Hey, morning everybody. So if you've been watching my Twitch stream at all, you've probably noticed that I've been spending a lot of time working on development on a project called FarmForge. So I just wanted to do a quick video, kind of explain what that was and kind of what's going on with it. So the idea came about as I started to work on my own crops, not really crops per se, but I decided to start growing some herbs and smaller plants and stuff like that, using hydroponics. And then as I was doing that, I decided or ended up needing a way to log kind of what was happening and what I was doing, so that way I had some information in the future that I can kind of look back on and see what worked and what didn't. So the goal with FarmForge essentially is to provide some software that not only allows you to log what you're doing and what's going on, but to be able to provide traceability from the seed that you plant all the way to consumption, whether you're eating it yourself or you hand it off to a customer, either an individual or a store or something like that. And then in addition, it should also be able to help track yields, harvests, what goes into each crop. So if you're giving X amount of water or fertilizer, stuff like that. And then I also wanted to be able to track inventory that I had on hand, both in terms of tools, nutrients, containers, things like that, all the way to the actual crops themselves. So if I harvest 20 apples or 30 different herbs, I want to know what I've got, so that way it kind of helps forecast a little bit of what I should be planting and all that kind of stuff. And then it'll also help kind of keep track of who your suppliers are, who your customers are, so that way if you've got someone that you buy a lot of, you can kind of see that, or if kind of diversify a little bit, whatever kind of your goals are, I guess. And then it'll also help kind of keep track of prices that you've paid, prices that you've gotten, so you can kind of see if things are in line, or if you're paying too much, paying too little, getting too little, things like that. So the other thing I was wanting to do with FarmForge is to have the ability to integrate with IoT devices. So not only can you manually track everything and log what you're doing, but say you have some sensors, you want to hook those up to your fields or some hydroponics containers or something like that, you can do so, and then you have a central location that you can kind of view all of the sensor data. You can view charts, graphs, all of that, and then get some alerts as well. So say you've got crop A and they're not getting enough water, you get a text that says, hey, we need some more water, or your pH gets out of balance. You can get that. Maybe you have it hooked up to a motor, and it starts doing stuff automatically. So your water reservoir gets to a certain level, you get an email, hey, we need to fill this up. Or if your plants aren't getting enough water, it'll pull from that reservoir automatically based on a moisture level or something like that. So and then the last thing I wanted to do with FarmForge is kind of go backwards a little bit, I guess. But rather than everything, right now everything's kind of going cloud first and cloud native. FarmForge definitely works with that, and I'll kind of show that here in a second. But I decided to focus on local first, primary reason being that especially in rural areas and farms and stuff like that, not everybody has access to constant, reliable, high-speed internet. So if you don't have that, I still wanted the individuals to be able to run the software, at least locally. So as long as you have a switch and router or something like that locally set up in your network, you're still able to use everything like you would otherwise. So what I thought I would do is kind of run through a quick demo of what FarmForge is. So let's switch screens real quick. So here you can see I've got the main screen up. It's kind of covered a little at the top, but you can see FarmForge 5000. So this is FarmForge running on a Raspberry Pi that I have locally. So like I said, it runs local first. Can run on cheaper hardware, so you don't need anything extravagant. This is just a Raspberry Pi that it's running on. Right now it's the initial MVP, so it's just got a couple areas. It's got settings, crops, and dashboards. So there's a demo that you can look at online, and then I'll post a link to it in this video description. But this This one here is hosted in Azure on a web app. So if we log in real quick, we're not going to save the password. Username and password is incorrect. Awesome. So, all right. So now that we're logged in, same kind of thing. So there's a few things you can do. You can manage your locations. So say you've got 3 greenhouses and 2 raised beds. You can kind of keep track of what those are and what's planted where. So if we go into our settings area and we look at our locations, right now we don't have anything set up. So we just click add. Our location is going to be farm, and there's no parent location. So with locations, you can also parent them to another area. So like our root location here is going to be farm. We're going to save that. And then say we want to add another location. This is going to be greenhouse 1, and then it's going to be parented to the farm. And we just save that. So now you can look at greenhouse 1 and it's part of the farm, our overall farm. The other thing you can see are crops. So we've got different crop types. A bunch of them are preloaded. Apples, bananas, a bunch of different common stuff that you could end up growing. So every time you click on one of those, you have a list of varieties. Each one has just a generic variety. But if you want, you can add others. So say you have I don't know, we'll just go with watermelons. So we've got generic watermelon. Say we want to add like a sugar baby or some other variety, we can add that so we can get a little bit more detail about what crops we're actually growing and have some data on each of those. So that's kind of the settings area. Users, same thing. Right now we just have our admin user, but we have the ability to specify other users. So if we have more than one person that wants to use this or needs to use this, we have the ability to add them that way. So going back to our dashboard, this will give kind of just an overview. Right now it'll show how many crops are planted, how many crops are in each location, and then how many total harvests you've had. And then the final area is our crops. So this up here is just a little search bar. You want to if you want to see what you've grown between, say, October 1st and October 13th, save, and then we search. Right now it's not going to come back with anything because we don't have any crops. But say we want to add one. We just planted an apple tree. So we click the little plus button at the bottom. We'll look for apples, just a generic variety. And this is not in our greenhouse, it's just at our farm somewhere. And then we planted it, let's say we planted it on October 3rd. And then for quantity, we just printed we planted one apple tree. Save it, and then now we've got an apple that shows up. So if you want more information, you can just click on the row. You can see what the status is, whether it's planted, growing, flowering, all that. For right now, we're going to say it's growing because we planted it when it was about a year old, so it's, I don't know, a couple feet tall, I guess. It's at our farm, and then you can kind of see some general information. We'll save it, and now it's in that status. Say we want to create a log. We added some fertilizer. So we could do an input log. Status is still going to be growing, and then our notes are going to be added, I don't know, a half bag of fertilizer, which is probably way too much than you would actually do, but we create the log. Now next time we go in, we had an observation log to growing because we changed its status, and then we had an input that added half a bag of fertilizer. So you can kind of keep track of what everything is from here. So at this point, these are pretty much the main features, I guess, of it. The other thing that we can do is if we go to web developer and our console, we can, let's see, not sure, oh, here it is. So we can change it to mobile as well. So it's responsive. Let's go responsive. I don't know how we drag this. Okay, so if it's kind of a mobile screen, let me get out of this thing. Okay, so it's a mobile screen. It's got the different areas over here. If we go a little bit wider, it changes into more like a tablet view. So you've got your little navigation bar over here. Go to the dashboard. We can see that we have one crop planted now, and I guess the dragging and pulling doesn't work on Firefox, but it does on Chrome. So, and then if we get even larger, then it'll go back to our desktop view. So you can access it from a phone, from a tablet, from a desktop, whatever you want to do. So that's kind of the demo that I've got for right now as far as what's working on it. If you're interested in trying it out or kind of seeing what it's all about, you can go to farmforge.io, and it's got a little bit of documentation set up, some documents. It's got the introduction, release notes, kind of a roadmap of what we're looking to do with it, and then it's got some information, how do you install it, and how to do some basic actions, creating users, locations, and then if you're getting into a little bit more technical information or details, it's got this development section where it goes over the architecture of what it's going to be, how to use the client, the different aspects of that, which is all written in Dart and Flutter. Then it's got kind of the API stuff, which is all .NET Core, a list of all the endpoints that you can use so far. It goes over the data model, how everything's structured, and all that kind of stuff. If you want to try it out, or kind of get a little bit more of like what the code actually is, you can check out the GitHub repo, because again, like I said, it's all open source, and then it's got a link to the demo if you want to try that and see it in person. It's got some how to contract. We've got a Discord server set up, stuff like that. So yeah, so that's all I've got for right now. Just wanted to kind of do a quick demo overview of it. So we've got it in our first pre-release. It's the MVP version. So there might be a bug here or there, and then we've got a lot of stuff that's going to be added to it. Probably the next portion is going to be some inventory tracking and an asset management kind of stuff, so we can actually start adding some of that traceability and adding suppliers and stuff like that. So if you have any questions, feel free to stop by in the Discord server, or look at the GitHub repo, or check me out on Twitch when I'm streaming, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'll have links to all those in the video description, and then I'll talk to you guys next time then. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.